Hey, how's it going? Today we're going to play Dragapult Iron Thorns. Now this is Mad's Jensen top 8 list from the Stuttgart Regional, and first we are going to go over the list, then we're going to play a couple of games, and after that I'm going to talk about if you should even play this deck and if it has a spot in the meta. Now the whole idea with this deck is we want to start the Iron Thorns to slow the game down and get into eventually attacking with our Dragapult. Iron Thorns of course has the ability, it shuts off all abilities of Roblox Pokemon except for future Pokemon as long as it's in the active. As an attack for Lightning Double Colorless does 140, and we move an energy from this Pokemon to one of our bench. This is perfect. We can use this attack and then move one of the energies to our Dragapult to start setting that up. The Dragapult has the Phantom Dive attack for Psychic Fire 200, and we spread 6 damage counters on the bench. It is just a great attack. We can manipulate damage really well with this deck and take like big multi-prize turns. It also evolves from the Drakloak, which we have 4 of because it's our consistency engine. It has the ability once during our turn, look at the top 2 cards of our deck, put one in our hand, the other on the bottom of our deck. This is great. It just makes Dragapult even better. The way we are going to evolve these Pokemon is with TM Evo. We're going to go second with this deck and try an Arven for the Precious Trolley and TM Evo, and hopefully we started in Iron Thorns and we can use it to evolve up our Pokemon. Precious Trolley of course says we can get any number of basic Pokemon from our deck and put them on our bench. We also have Toedscool in here to help with matchups like Raging Bolt, Goldengo, Regidrago, things like that, with its ability that cards from our opponent's discard pile cannot be put into their hand through abilities or effects of trainer cards, so it shuts off Pokestop, energy retrieval, all that. A Radiant Pokemon is Alakazam, lets us move 2 damage counters from one of our opponent's Pokemon to another one of their Pokemon. This is great for knocking things out like Pheasantipity and stuff like that, just getting that extra little bit of damage. The way we accelerate energy is with Crispin. Search our deck for 2 different energy types, and we put one in our hand, attach the other one to one of our Pokemon, and we have to have 2 different types of energy in our deck to be able to accelerate the energy, which is kind of unfortunate, but we play 3 different types of energy so often that's just going to be fine. Yeah, the rest of the deck is just cards to make the deck function. We have very limited ball search, so we're really relying on Arven for Trolley and TM Evo to start going through our deck. And yeah, that is the list. Let's get into the games. We are up against Raging Bolt this match for this game, and we won the coin flip, chose to go second. Raging Bolt is a weird matchup. I think it's like pretty solid if we start the Iron Thorns. Starting Dreepy definitely makes it a little bit harder, but luckily our opponent did not have a very strong turn 1. So I am just going to Arven here and get the Trolley and TM Evo and check if my Toedscruel is there. So I'm going to try to just evolve into a Drakloak and a Toedscruel and hope that the Toedscruel slows my opponent down. I'm also going to grab an Iron Thorns, so because I'm guessing that I'm going to have to send it up next turn to try and like buy a little bit of time and not just let my opponent go off completely and run me over. I think I listened to a podcast with the guy that got top 8 with this deck at Stuttgart, and he was saying that in these matchups he was really prioritizing the Toedscruel, and I kind of see why after this game. I can make these decks like he just milled triple Earthen Vessel because he didn't read the Toedscruel, and now his way to get energy is gone. It can also make it really hard for them to get certain energy types later in the game, and just generally hard to hit attacks. Unfortunately, he is able to knock out my Dreepy, and I think I make a bit of a mistake here and send up the Drakloak. I was kind of thinking that I could try and high roll getting a Crispin and getting an attack off this turn, and if I didn't, I could grab a skateboard with Arven and just retreat into the Iron Thorns. I don't know if it was generally the best plan. I probably should have just sent up the Thorns and seen what happened, but my thought was it'd be easier to retreat into the Dragapult or retreat the Drakloak than it would be to retreat the Iron Thorns, even though I did hit the future capsule, which is kind of funny. Now here I am. I don't know what to do. I know I have to play one of the supporters because if I don't, then I'll never find Crispin next turn. So I just grab Vessel and TM Evo to at least do 70 damage to this Raging Bolt, and if they are unable to knock me out, which is kind of what I'm hoping, if they can't knock me out this turn, that I can knock them out with Phantom Dive and maybe set up whatever they put on their bench to be knocked out next turn. I'm just reading the Toedscruel to see if it would stop me from using Pokestop, and it doesn't. And unfortunately, my opponent has a pretty perfect turn for how bad they're drawing, where they get the Sada for 2, and PAL pad double side in, so now my Iono is going to be a lot less effective. And I am basically going to have to send up the Iron Thorns and attach an energy to maybe Drakloak and Iono and hope that they can't knock it out next turn. Another kind of like thing that makes this matchup hard is if our opponent uses Burst Roar when they need to, or when they have a dead hand, it really messes with our Ionos because this deck only does play 2 Iono. So we only have 2 hand disruption options, and with how slow I'm drawing this game, if they just Burst Roar twice, it's going to make it really hard for us to win this game unless they run out of energy somehow. That is the only way I see winning. So I use the abilities and kind of set my hand up pretty well. I have a lot of options next turn. I can get some energy down. All I need to really hit is a future capsule to retreat into my Dragapult. And I bench another Iron Thorns in case they use the Iron Bundle. I wanted to be able to send up an ability lock Pokemon into the active. Now, my opponent was playing really slow when they didn't have anything to do. Well, I can't really say much because I play like slower, but they were just like looking at dead hands for a pretty long time. I tend to do that too sometimes and try to just like manifest a better cards into my hand. Yeah, this is definitely, oh my god, I did not even realize what I did there. That's awful. I guess I was really committed to the Iono. I should have just grabbed the Arven and knocked out the active. Wow, that's why I kind of like watching these games back. I feel like it gives you a much better like perspective on the game, watching it after the fact. 'Cause during the game, I was just totally convinced that if I didn't Iono them, I was gonna lose guaranteed. And I thought I had really good odds to hit the future booster capsule. Yeah, that's kind of unfortunate. I could have just grabbed the Arven and knocked out the active. I don't really know why. Yeah, whatever, we're here now. And they are going to knock out my Iron Thorns, but they do have to commit all their energy. And see, this is also another reason why I shouldn't have used the Iono. Should have grabbed the Arven and used that. I could have Iono'd them to 1 this turn, and I think I would have basically had guaranteed game if I did it the other way around. Now watching, yeah, and then there was the booster capsule. I was really close to it. I thought I had like almost guaranteed odds to hit it, but, or not guaranteed, but like 80% or better. So yeah, but in hindsight, definitely would have been better to wait to Iono them to 1. I think there would have been almost no way that I could lose if I did that. And now I kind of need them to mess up or to somehow miss their Sadas. And with this hand, I'm just like thinking about what supporter I should use, because I definitely want to play 1 to get some of the cards out of my deck. It's just whether I want to boss or use Arven for counter catcher or just Crispin to pull some energies out. I do just decide to boss the Ogerpon. Yeah, I played really bad in this game. I moved the 20 there because I was just going to start piling damage onto that Ogerpon and try and knock it out with the ping damage and Alakazam. But then later in the turn decided to boss, kind of punish myself for sequencing wrong. Alakazam should be like probably one of the last things that I do in the turn order, because I can just always do it later on. It was one of those times where I just use an ability to buy time to think about what I want to do overall in the turn, instead of just like committing to a play and doing it, which is unfortunate, but it's the way it is. My opponent does hit a switch cart here. I don't know if they had to switch cart or if they only had access to a lightning energy from hand. Oh, they burst roar anyway. Yeah, they definitely messed that up. They should have accelerated to the Raging Bolt with less energy on it, but they did not. So here we are now. And now I just need them to whiff for 1 more turn. And they have 6 cards, so I don't really plan for them, or I don't really think that I have the best odds of them whiffing. My thoughts are, I'm going to Arven for counter catcher, and no, I'm not. I don't know why I thought I was going to do that. I moved the 1, or I moved 2 to the Ogerpon? No, I moved 1 to it. Oh, because it was the extra damage off the Raging Bolt. Wow, I'm really losing my mind. Yeah, I have to knock out one of the Raging Bolts because They have the energy on it. I need to remove as much energy from play as possible. I don't think I even realized, I'm pretty sure my opponent has 4 Sada in the discard pile at this point. So I'm just like beyond overthinking everything. And I just try to set up everything so that all the 2-prizers can be knocked out with a Dragapult attack. Of course, it's kind of hard to play around Bravery Charm. So I put the extra damage on the, or no, I don't need to play around Bravery Charm because I have a Lost Vacuum. This deck is like just, I don't know. Dragapult decks are a little trickier to play just because there's more to think about with when you can damage the bench like that. My opponent Vessel is here and they're going to concede because they have all 4 Sadas in the discard pile. I'm pretty sure of it, yeah. Well, that game was pretty hard to watch. Definitely made a lot of bad plays and basically won on the back of Toedscruel being really good, which apparently the Toedscruel was like a last second change for them. And only a couple of them actually played it. They were originally playing Farigiraf in the place of it as a way to beat the Raging Bolt decks, but of course Farigiraf doesn't help against Drago or Goldengo, so kind of cool that I think they figured out like the night before, which is pretty cool. So we started Iron Thorns this game. That is ideal. All the games feel a lot more winnable when starting the Iron Thorns. I also am grabbing the Toedscool, I think that's what it's called, because I have the evolution in my hand. I want to be able to evolve it next turn. I would have to guess that this deck plays Pokestop, so I want to get that down as soon as possible. Unfortunately, the evolution's in my hand, so I have to wait a turn to evolve it. I also need to hit a Crispin next turn to start attacking with the Iron Thorns. My opponent, I don't think they can knock me out. They have quite a few energy in the discard pile, and I don't know why the game was just showing that they had no cards in the discard pile. They definitely have a bunch. They actually have enough to knock me out, and they Night Stretcher, and energy back. This is just another example. They probably know what the Toedscruel does, and they're thinking, well, I need to get the energy now. I can't use Palkia's ability next turn, and this might be my last chance to get energies out of the discard pile, or they just did their math wrong, didn't think they were knocking me out anyway. I figured they might as well grab the energy back, but they would have one-shot me if they didn't, which would have not made too much of a difference, I don't think. Or it shouldn't have made too much of a difference. The way that they play this game out, it actually does make a pretty big difference, but I don't think they really play it the best. I decided to grab the Turo. Yeah, I'm just trying to hit the Crispin. There they are. I hit 2 of them. I can grab Lightning and Psychic out of the deck and just attach the Lightning and then hand attach either the Psychic or the Fire. It really doesn't matter. Or yeah, I definitely want to do the Psychic. Then I can move the Psychic back, hand attach the Fire next turn, and have a Dragapult all built up. Unless I'm somehow able to attack with the Iron Thorns, then I just attach the Fire to the active and move it back to the Dragapult, which they boss up my other Iron Thorns. I'm not really sure. I think that they're probably trying to set up a 4-prize turn with Greninja later in the game. Unfortunately for them, I have the Turo in hand, which makes me pretty glad I grabbed the supporters the way that I did. Just, that's the kind of how I'm grabbing the cards. I just want to not have too many doubles in my hand and keep adding more options to the hand. Instead of like there, I could have grabbed the Crispin, but then I'd have 2 Crispin and there's really no point in that. So I grabbed the Stretcher to have the option to, you know, get whatever back I need next turn. I also don't bench the other Iron Thorns. I probably could have, but I didn't want to give my opponent a stall target or an extra easy 2-prize Pokemon to knock out and play. So yeah. Now their hand is dead again, and the reason that this is kind of like boring game so far, but my games either went like this typically, or my deck completely bricked. So it was like either I started Iron Thorns, my opponent barely could play the game, or this deck just fumbled, I didn't hit the Arven, and then I was playing catch up the entire game. Like a couple of games, the first game I played, I started the Alakazam into a Palkia Dusknoir deck, couldn't retreat it, I used my TM Evo, they turned 2 Greninja both my Drakloaks, and then the games that I stumbled were like that, and the other games are like this. I would say I think I set up more games than I didn't. I'm taking so long on that Nest Ball because it's like the only Nest Ball in the deck, I'm pretty sure, and after I played it, I realized I'm just putting a stall target in play, and I debated not getting it, but just decided to grab it. It's one of the only ways I can get it, and I can just hold the rescue board to retreat either the Toedscruel or the Alakazam if I ever need to. My opponent doesn't bench anything here, which is pretty smart. They know that I have no way to knock them out, and they're just like lowering my damage output by doing that, so that's definitely a good idea. And I don't know if they really even have a win condition this turn though. I would have had to press like end turn by accident, I think. I also benched the other Dreepy just in case they Iono me. I have another way to evolve into a Drakloak just to see more cards in case they retreat and have like a one prize attacking option or something like that. Now they put the Gravity Mountain in play. I'm guessing that they're trying to get enough energy in the discard pile to knock out my Dragapult, and seeing them play Gravity Mountain, they probably don't play Pokestop, so the Toedscruel is really only stopping Night Stretcher. That is really annoying to play against from what I've found from the other side playing against this deck. A lot of decks rely on Night Stretcher, but my opponent retreats into Greninja. They just lose the game now because I can just move one damage over with the Alakazam and knock out the Greninja and the Charcadet. But yeah, like I was saying, even the Toedscruel just stopping Night Stretcher can be really annoying for a lot of decks to deal with that are kind of built to use Night Stretcher to get the energy they need or another Pokemon or anything like that. I found out with Cloth, it's really annoying when they put it in play, which when I first was playing against it, I was like, oh, why are they putting that in play? That does nothing. But after they KO'd my Pheasantipity, I could never get it back, and I don't want to waste my time knocking out a single prize Pokemon because either way you just kind of lose the game. So I would definitely recommend trying this deck out. I think it has a lot of good matchups. I don't know if there are too many cards you can change about the list. The list is already pretty greedy, which is kind of ironic because the whole Iron Thorns thing is playing on how a lot of lists nowadays are built extremely greedy and totally reliant on abilities, so that is a little bit funny. But I definitely wouldn't start cutting cards because all that you're going to do is cut like Pokégears that are consistency cards for like more ways to find basic Pokemon. I don't know that you're going to really want any like tech cards in the deck the way that it currently is. I think the first things you'd start adding are more Nest Balls and Poffins and stuff like that, so there is really no point. It works pretty well the way it is. Maybe the Toedscruel line could be something else dependent on how the meta is going right now, but a lot of decks are pretty reliant on Pokestop and Night Stretcher and retrievals and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's definitely a good deck. It's got a lot of good matchups. The Cloth matchup is notably pretty solid. It can definitely be bad if they can knock out your Iron Thorns turn one, but they can also just whip that attack, and even if they do knock it out, the game is still winnable from there because just Iono at the end of the game can be really good. So yeah, definitely try it out. It's a fun deck. Dragapult's a fun card, and you can just win games by accident by starting the Iron Thorns. Prizing the trolley is also pretty unfortunate. Definitely makes the game a lot harder for you, but that's just kind of the nature of ace specs, I guess. And yeah, that's like a whole nother discussion on if cards like that are even good for the game or not. But yeah, definitely try it out for yourselves. Like or dislike, comment, and subscribe. Take care and have a good one.